What's going on, everyone? My name is Jonathan, host here at the Venue RX podcast, and I am so excited for this interview today with Brandee Gaar. Brandee, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. This is going to be so much fun. I'm excited.
Uno, dos, tres.
I have to say, I love your branding. I
Thank you.
absolutely love your branding. Anyone listening to this or watching this on YouTube, you've got to go check out Brandee's website. It is one of the most beautiful. It's not busy. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful
Thank you.
website. So,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I also love a bunch of kind of fun. There's all sorts of fun things about you on there. And I was doing research for this podcast, and I love that you call your kids gargoyles. Like, that is hilarious.
Yeah, my husband comes from 4 kids and there was only one girl. And so she
Okay.
always dreamed of having sisters so that they could be called the gargoyles. I'm not sure why she ever wanted to be called that, but when we had 3 girls, she was like, "You have to call them the gargoyles." And literally everyone calls them that because we hashtag it all the time. Like it's just become what they're known as. And it's just, yeah, it's so funny. People talk about that all the time. It's so funny. So I didn't create it. My sister-in-law did. I have to give her the credit, but yes.
I love it. Either way, I think it's awesome. So you're a mom, correct?
Yes. Yes.
I'm excited to talk to you kind of obviously about business, about
Yeah.
the wedding and events industry, but I love talking to people who are also parents in this industry or people who
Yeah.
work with their spouse or whatever, because I think that adds kind of this unique dynamic of you really have to balance being a mom. And I've spent a little time on your socials. You're at volleyball games and you're doing, you've got a lot going on. And I think so many of us in the wedding and events industry are like that
Yeah.
also as business people, right?
Yes. So crazy.
Is there kind of an adjustment process that you had as you were having children and then also running your businesses? Was that super painful or did that kind of come naturally to you?
Yeah, no, there was nothing natural about it. It was when I see wedding pros with littles, I just say like I know I've been there. Like I'm not in that stage anymore. My youngest is 8 and my oldest is 15. So we're definitely in a different stage. My husband and I can just like pop out for a date night because we have a 15-year-old at home. Like we don't
Totally.
have to
Yeah.
worry about babysitters and schedules and things like that. But I
I'm so
started my
jealous.
business. Oh,
Um,
it's
my
like when my oldest turned 12, we literally were like, we have arrived. We have arrived because she could stay home just for us to go get coffee even, like,
yeah.
just get out of the house. How old are your kids?
So my oldest is 8, my youngest is 9 months.
Oh
So
my
I'm
word.
like so I'm going to take parenting notes from you too. I mean, this is going to
Oh,
be exciting.
it's exhausting, but, it's so great, and so my oldest was 1 when
Okay.
I started my business, and then we obviously had 2 more, and my 3rd was quite a surprise for us, and so but that it was such a blessing, obviously, she's incredible, but also because when I had her, I could not figure out how to have 3 kids and run a business. It didn't work for me. I mean, I could not figure it out. I tried and I said to my husband, I'm selling the business. Like I'm over it. And we weren't really amazing yet then. I think we'd had the business for 7 years, 6 years. And he said, absolutely not. Like I'm going to quit my job. Like I can help you. And I was like, what are you thinking? I was for sure not pulling a full-time income.
Mhm. How much
And
are you
we
working at
did
this
it. I
point?
mean, literally, we didn't think about it. We didn't have a plan. He was working full time. Yeah. And
Wow.
he
Okay.
actually was gone a lot. He was gone like 14 hours a day for his job. He was off on the weekends, but he worked really long days. And so we really never saw each other ever because I would be gone on the weekends. And it was just a lot. And so he said, I'm just going to quit my job. But when I tell people that, they're always like, I mean, what was your plan? How much did you save? I'm like, no, literally, he said that like October 2nd, and his last day at work was October 30th. Like that was it.
Oh my
And
gosh.
it was crazy. I don't know that I would do it again looking back, but it worked out. It was perfect. There were so many hard years. But we're doing it together. And now I think the biggest piece of that was that I didn't have to worry about the schedule for my girls anymore. There was no more like, I can't take a meeting because I have to get to the school to pick them up, or daycare's closed, or this one's sick. And he was always there. So there was 2 of us running. And so he allowed me the freedom to really be able to sell more, be able to do what I was great at. And he
Mhm.
took off some of the back end work and really helped with our girls. And now I don't know that our girls would ever even know what it was like for one of us to go to a job. Like they just have never remembered that, they were so little, you know? So
Mhm.
it's pretty cool. It's crazy, but
I
it's fun.
I think that's definitely a thing that kids, it sounds like both of our kids won't necessarily think about because
Yeah.
and I think a lot of kids even in this space are not going to think about as much because so many of us are home now,
Yeah.
right? And
Yes.
not even with entrepreneurial parents, but just kind of with a lot of parents.
Yeah.
And growing up, I know my dad was, he was gone. He was out of the
Yeah.
house. He was,
Hmm.
working, 12-hour days, and he
Yep.
definitely made time for us on the weekends but he was out. He was gone,
Right. Yeah.
there
Yeah.
wasn't the accessibility there.
Yeah.
So, that's really, really neat. Okay. So you're doing a wedding planning business at this point, correct?
Uh-huh. Yep.
Okay. And you still have that business today?
Yeah, so Blush is my wedding planning company. It's named after the movie Steel Magnolias, Blush and Bashful. My colors
Love
are
it.
blush and bashful. And I wanted it to be one word. That was my big thing. I want it to be one word. So, yep, Blush, we've had it for 14 years. It's a luxury wedding planning company in Orlando, Florida. And we only do weddings. We don't do social events or corporate events or anything like that. But I do come from a corporate background. I was an event planner for a big hotel here in Orlando before I started my business. And so we always said we would go back to our corporate roots, but a corporate client can kind of like eat your whole lunch, like you get one client and it will your whole year is shot, which is great. But if you have a full book of weddings, it's hard to do both. So we always said we would go back to it when the time was right. And so when we were in our 11th year of Blush, we had a great opportunity for a client that had come to us and said, I want to have my first conference. And so we created 11 events, which is really just because we were in our 11th year. That's how creative we were. And we do corporate events for 11. So two
Wow.
companies.
Got
Mhm.
it. Got it. Okay. So why Orlando? And Orlando's where you're based now, correct?
Yeah, Orlando is where I grew up. I've been here
Okay.
since I was 4. So I can't ever really imagine leaving, to be honest. And we're in the mecca of weddings and hospitality. I mean, why would I really have any need to ever leave? Even for college, I thought that all my friends were going away for college. And I was like, but I have one of the best hospitality schools here and I'm in the mecca of hospitality. Why would I leave? So I've always been here, and we're the number 2 wedding destination behind Las Vegas. So we have no shortage of weddings. That's for sure.
I love that you said that. I think that a lot of wedding pros throughout the country,
Mhm.
I think no matter where you are, it's easy to kind of have that grass is greener mindset, right? Like
Yeah.
for us here in California, I'm in Southern California and it's like things have been locked down. You hear about
Yeah.
places like Texas, that, and I actually just was talking to CC Todd, from
Oh, yeah.
Alabama,
Yeah.
and she's like, Corona, what? Like, I don't even know what coronavirus is
Here
here.
too.
Right.
We're not, I mean, we're under no restrictions anymore, 0 restrictions. So we're wide open, wedding season as normal. It's
I'm
crazy.
packing my bags. I'm packing my bags. But I think that idea that the grass is greener, like obviously
Mhm.
there are the problems that come along with any
Yeah.
market, right?
Yes. Yeah.
How do you at what point, I guess, do you go from being a wedding planner, luxury wedding
Mhm.
planner, then doing corporate events? At what point are you like, I've got an unlock here. I've got something that other people need. I'm passionate about teaching. I want to go into coaching. At
Yeah.
what point did that happen?
Not really that long ago. I mean, it's been, I say 18 months, but most of the people who've been watching me are like, it really was last summer. I mean, we came up with the idea, and my husband really pushed me into it kind of the fall of 2019.
Okay.
So right before the pandemic hit, we started our podcast. We kind of just, I didn't even have an Instagram account before that. So we started an Instagram account. I started really pushing into social media. What's funny too is that I am I love video. I love live video. I love video, audio, like everything about just winging it, kind of I just
Totally.
love it. And
Spontaneous,
yes,
impromptu. I'm with you.
but that's not the way it was then. I mean, I had never gone live before 2019. Even the first like half a dozen times I went live, I would like throw up after. It was terrible because I was like, I can't do this. But, I love to always encourage people and say, go back and watch my stuff from like go scroll down to the bottom of my Instagram. You will see how trash it is. Like it's so bad. Watch my original IG lives. Facebook Lives. What happened for me is that, so the unlock kind of happened because I speak a lot at our hospitality school. We have an incredible hospitality school here, and I speak a lot there. I'm an alumni of the school, and I sit on their advisory council. So I'm there quite often, a couple times a semester to speak. And I started realizing I really, really love teaching. Like I love teaching. And I think one of the hardest things for me as a business owner wasn't necessarily how to become a wedding planner. It was more once I got to that phase where I was good at it and I had maybe one or two people on my team, I could not figure out how to scale from, just under $100,000 in revenue to really into that multiple six figures. And
Mhm.
and I say this all the time, so I want to make sure that everyone understands I do not think you need to be in the six figure or multiple six figures to be successful. I do not think that. But if that's your desire, which it was for me, I wanted to scale because I had three daughters and I wanted to not have to go to weddings. I
Mhm.
wanted to have a team that would go to weddings and we would still be able to make a full-time income without having to work every Saturday.
Mhm.
And so for me, it was about scale. I cannot tell you how difficult it was for me to figure out that unlock to scale. I was like, how do you bring on full-time employees? How much do you pay them? Do you pay them benefits? What are their hours? How much do they work? And so for me, once I started figuring all that out and I kind of like unlocked it, literally, we just soared. I mean, there was no really stopping the revenue that was coming in. And so for me, I was like, there have to be other entrepreneurs that are out there that are like this. I'm not going to say I don't love teaching brand new wedding planners, but it's not my favorite thing. I think there's so many programs out there that can teach you like how to be a wedding planner. Here's our templates. And I'm sure we'll have that at some point too. But my passion is really for that planner or wedding pro in general that's maybe around that like $60,000 mark in revenue. And they're like, I'm doing okay. Like my clients are coming in, I'm figuring it out. But how do I not work every Saturday? Because
Mhm.
if you're still at that, like, you know, 60, $70,000 mark, you likely don't have a big team. So you're going out on every event and it's figuring out how do I pay myself plus a team and start pulling back. So that's what I really love teaching. And that's what we really stepped into the market to do. And then COVID hit, which was actually such a blessing for me because it allowed me to pull way back from Blush while we had a lull and really focus on helping other wedding pros that didn't have a team.
Yeah.
So I just started going live every single day, 7 days a week. I would go live on my Facebook and I would just say, here's what my team is doing today for Corona. Here's what my team is doing today. And it kind of just became this thing where people would tune in to say, sometimes it was just like, I just need to see a friendly face because I'm like locked in my house with my kids and we have no events and I just don't know what to do.
Yeah.
That's how I got good with live.
So you are incredible with live, but you're also
Thank you.
incredible on Reels. And I actually said this in my little Instagram story. But like I will be going through Instagram and then boom, the little reel that you do pops up. And I love that. I think that you're engaging and you're also not taking yourself so seriously. And I think that's
Yeah.
something that a lot of people really struggle with. They do something kind of goofy, like on whatever it is, like TikTok or
Yeah.
Reels or whatever, and they get in their head, this looks
Hmm.
stupid. I don't like how my like, oh, I'm too old for this. Isn't this thing for
Yes.
kids? And you start this kind of self-deprecation. What are some tips? Do you have some tips for people who are
A
listening to this
hundred
right now
percent.
that say like, I could never do that, I don't want to do that? Do you have some tips for people to kind of get out of their own skin and be more comfortable and maybe just be better on live video?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So the first thing I have to say is if you don't do it, you will not get better at it. Like there's just no way. You can't get better at live video without doing live video. Also, reels aren't live. So if you're really that freaked out about live video, you can re-record it 100 times. I don't suggest that because you'll end up saying this takes too long. I don't want to do it. But you can re-record it multiple times. So that's a blessing about reels. I will say one of the really cool things about reels for me is that I am a fairly buttoned up professional person. Like my blush brand 11, even my coaching brand, I typically am conservative and I feel like I'm very professional. Like I don't let a whole lot of like, weirdness come into my platform, but on reels, but I am a fairly goofy person, like as
Yeah.
a real person. And on reels, I feel like that gives me the platform to be able to do that.
Mhm.
And so when people say like, "Oh, I don't want to make a fool of myself." I'm like, "But that's what reels are for. They're for to you to be able to show more of your real personality." And it may not be that you're a goofball. Maybe you're not a goofball. Maybe you like, kind of that buttoned up look. There's so many ways that you can use reels. You can even just point. You can educate your audience. You can speak right to camera. But I think what people forget is that they think, well, I'm just going to keep going on stories because reels is too overwhelming for me. But here's the thing, stories only get shown to the people that already follow you, which isn't really that helpful. I mean, it's great. Like you do want to show up on stories and you want to, nurture the audience that you have. But if you're trying to expand your audience, and I hear this from wedding pros literally every single day, they're like, how do I grow my reach? How do I grow my reach? I'm like, can I scream this any louder? Like reels are being favored on the algorithm on Instagram so much right now. All you have to do is make a reel. I promise you, it's going to start drawing people in. And then they do it and they're like, oh my gosh, it worked. I'm like, I know.
You're like, I've
So
been
I
telling
think,
you.
I know. So I think just remembering that reels are meant to not be taken seriously. Like if you look like a goofball, who cares? And I just like I kind of said earlier, go to my reels tab and scroll to the bottom. You guys will be shocked at how terrible they are. And I don't delete them on purpose. I want to because they're so cringy, but I don't delete them on purpose because I teach reels. And
Mhm.
I want people to be able to see that like you do get progressively better, but you just got to do it. And then you'll start thinking like, I didn't love that. And you can always archive it. Like if there's something that's terrible, you can archive it, later. But I think it's great to just start, just get in the game, just start. And the organic reach from reels right now it's shocking. It's shocking. I love it.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna have to get on reels right away because I have done absolutely zero reels. I know.
What?
I know. I'm breaking your heart. I know.
You are breaking my heart.
I
I'm
hate
dying.
admitting that, but yeah, we've done exactly zero reels, and there's really no excuse. I mean, I have multiple Instagram accounts that I could be doing reels on. I have TikTok, even though I don't really use it that much.
Yeah.
But did you go ahead?
I was just going to say, can I tell you why reels? So like people say, oh, it's just like TikTok and TikTok overwhelms me. I did TikTok too for 30 days. It didn't work. The reason that I love reels so much is because you're already on Instagram. You're already nurturing that audience. So if you go to TikTok, you have to build a whole new audience. And a lot of the TikToks are a lot more edited. They're meant to be very crazy and entertaining. Whereas on Instagram, over half of the reels are more educational. They're meant to educate your audience. TikTok's not necessarily like that. It's just more for fun. So if you already have Instagram accounts, you already have an audience waiting to see you. You're just going to be growing it more and then providing more value when they get to your platform by the stuff that you already post. So really you just have to think of your reels as that. And what's really cool too is people are always like, I don't know what to post. And I'm like, well, what do you post as a graphic post? What do you post as like your normal carousels? Make that into a reel, literally just make that into a reel, pull people in.
That's huge. I think that is the stumbling block that I would have. Like, I
Yeah.
don't know what I would do. I don't know what I would say. And so there are totally some of those blocks. I'm totally comfortable on video. I
Mhm.
love the impromptu nature as well. That was like impromptu was one of my categories when I did speech and debate, when I
Yeah.
was in school. But, it is that like, what am I going to say? Like, I'm not a great dancer. You don't want to see me dance. No one wants to see me dance. But, that kind of like showing
Me
the
either.
facts, like I know, but I
Yeah.
feel, I love that you're out there, you're putting yourself out there and you're not afraid to like be fun and a little
Yeah.
silly, but then you're also educating. I think that's,
Yeah. And I think that's the most important part about it. I always say anytime you post a reel, it should either be to educate, evoke emotion, or inspire. That's it. Like, what are you doing with it? And with evoking emotion, most of the time that's humor on mine. And it just makes people laugh and they're like, oh my gosh, she's goofy. I want to follow her. But with our blush brand, most of the time the emotion we're trying to evoke is we want a bride to feel the emotion of the wedding day. So we might have like a groom crying at the first look. And you can get that so much better out of a reel. Like it's just iPhone footage from one of our planners versus a photo, like you can just get that emotion. So what we're trying to do is help a bride feel the emotion of the moment so that she can feel like, I want to feel like that on my wedding day, or laughing during a toast, like there's
Mhm.
lots of different things that you can make somebody feel through a reel, and it's just 15 seconds. And if you can capture the emotion, then they're going to be more likely to come into what you're selling.
For the people that you work with that, are your students, and as you're
Mhm.
helping coach them through these different topics, different challenges they're facing, what challenges do you see commonly coming up kind of again and again and again?
So there's a couple. One is just not knowing where to find the clients. Like, where do I find the clients? How do I, do I advertise with the Not Wedding Wire, or do I, do more on Instagram? And what do I do when I'm on Instagram? I've heard I should do Pinterest. I've heard I should do TikTok and SEO. I mean, there's so many things. And what I'm really, really, really passionate about, and I think that's how I've gotten known for Reels. I'm by no means an Instagram expert. I really like to show entrepreneurs that it doesn't have to be as hard as we make it in any category you choose to show up in. And what that means is that you don't have to follow, let's just take Reels as an example. You don't have to follow an Instagram guru that's trying to show you how to get a million views on your reel. And they're showing you how to make it in 6 different apps and do all these crazy effects. Like, none of us have time to learn that. And
Yeah.
so we get overwhelmed by it and we're like, I don't even want to do it. Well, no kidding. We don't have time for that. We're wearing 100 hats. So what I want to show you is, you can do quick and easy. I don't need a million views on it. I just need 1,000 of the right eyes on it. So I want to use the right hashtags. I want to make it quick. I want to make it easy. I want to make it painless, because I got to get back to running my business. And
Mhm.
really, I teach that with everything I teach. When you're doing sales, or when you're showing up on Pinterest, when you're writing a blog, do it so that it gets the point across, but it doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be all the ways that, some SEO master would tell you to write a blog. Just know, what are you trying to accomplish? If you're only trying to accomplish eyes on your website, write a blog that is going to be great for Pinterest, pin it 100 times and get those eyes back to your website, and then try to get people to book a consult from there. So really, that's a lot of what I see, is that people get so overwhelmed by the perfect way to do something, or the guru's way to do something. And I'm like, yes, if the only thing you were focused on is SEO, if that's all you were focused on, sure, you should probably be doing it like they're telling you to. But that isn't what you get to focus on, because you're CEO of a wedding planning company or a wedding DJ company, whatever. And you have a lot of other things to be working on. So we need to know, what's your goal with it. Let's just figure out the best way to do it for your goal, and let's move on to, because we got to go do something else. So that's really what I try to help people understand, is just it's really just about growth and scale. And you've got to learn where to put your efforts and where not to put your efforts. If they're not working for you, stop it, move on. We beat our
Totally.
heads against a wall a lot.
I can completely relate. And I love that you talked about perfection. I want to push a little bit into that
Yeah.
because I feel like for so many wedding and event people, because the nature of the job is aesthetic. I mean, sure, there's the service, right? But the service is
Hmm.
kind of consistent across the board. I mean,
Sure.
obviously with some differences, but you know,
Sure.
especially as a luxury planner,
Yeah.
how do you think about perfection? Because you want to have this beautifully curated Instagram. You want, I assume, your reels to all look nice. You want, because you're that luxury brand. And I hear that a lot from planners. I hear that a lot from venues. They get caught up
Hmm.
in the journey because it's like, I want it to look perfect. And I either know that I can't, like, I'm being realistic. I can't
Hmm.
spend the time, the money, I don't have the know-how to do some of these things. How do you kind of resolve those two that seem to be opposed to each other?
Yeah. I think one of the really cool things that's happening right now is that clients don't really want that perfection anymore. We're wanting that for ourselves. So what I would say is, especially with something like, I want my grid to be perfect and my reels are screwing it up. You can make a quick cover if you want to. I personally do not put covers on my reels because I just don't have time. Like, that would just add another layer and I don't have time. So I have two options. I can either say, if I can't make it perfect, I'm not going to do it at all. And then I miss out on this organic reach that's coming right in. Or I can say, done is better than perfect. I will get better with it every single time I do it. And I'm just going to do it. And then if later you want to archive some stuff because you didn't love it and it doesn't look great on your grid, you can do that. But I think we miss the point. And the point is, you have to be selling, you have to be actively bringing people onto your platform, whether that's through Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, blogging, whatever. You need to be bringing people in to sell them. And when you just get so overwhelmed by it not being perfect, you don't do it at all. You're missing the boat. Like, you're just missing the whole point, which is put yourself out there.
Mhm.
And so I would just say, I love done is better than perfect. Jenna Kutcher coined that term. I'm not going to try to say I did it. But I love it because as like you said, we're perfectionists in the wedding industry. My weddings are flawless. They're not. Think about this for a second. Most weddings are not flawless. They're
Mhm.
total train wreck sometimes, right? But does the
So
client
true.
ever know?
No, exactly.
No. Exactly. And so what we think is that everything has to be perfect. I can't tell you how many times I've made a reel and I'm like, that was a train wreck. I don't even want to post it, but I have to post something today and I don't have time to remake it. And then it's like, I have one that's like my best performing reel. I hate it. I hate that reel so much. More because I know what happened on the back end,
Yep.
but everyone loves it. So I think just remember that, like, people don't know all the back end, just do it. Just do it. I promise you, don't miss out on what good can come because you're trying so hard to be perfect.
I was gonna say, just while you were talking, I pulled up your Instagram, and for anyone out here looking on YouTube, you're gonna have to check this out. Brandy's definitely practicing what she's preaching, and I have to say, there's obviously the curated posts, right?
Yes.
The posts that are beautiful. You're obviously staying consistent with your brand colors and all of
Yeah.
that, but the ones that I want to click on are the reels.
Yes.
Because there's like, what's going on in here? Like, you look kind of confused in this one. And it's like when I get an email from a vendor that, okay, for sure, I got to look at that because that's
Yes.
a vendor list thing. So I'm going to click on that. I'm going to look. That's kind of the engaging one. The one that where, you look very pretty, your hair's done, like
Yeah.
that. I kind of like, I'm like,
Meh.
I see it. I'm like,
Eh.
cool.
Yeah.
Nice
It's a pretty
picture.
picture.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But
Yeah.
the other one, I'm curious. And so
Yeah.
I love that you're really pushing into that. And I love that whole like just good and getting it done is
Yeah.
better than perfect because a lot of times perfect doesn't happen,
It
you
doesn't
know?
happen. And here's the thing too, always remember that the better you get at something, the better you'll be at it. So when I say that, that could be something like, let's say you're like, I don't have the funds to outsource a VA to help me with this, right? So, okay, well, let's do this. Why don't you just start making reels, start getting that organic traffic in, make another sale. Let's say when you get to 3 sales, 3 more sales, you're going to hire a VA that can make all your cover art for you, right? So now you've made these reels. If you don't love them and they're really messing with your grid and it's bothering you, you can archive those. But now you hire a VA for a couple hours a week that is going to help you write the copy for your caption and make the cover art for you. And then now you're like, okay, wait, now I'm still doing reels. I've learned how to do them well because I did them kind of janky there for a little bit. And now you have somebody helping you. So you can just get better at it. I mean, Blush, we have a team that is able to do, the cover art and they make it look beautiful. So if you're over on Blush's page, you're not going to see these weird squares because we do make cover art for all of our reels, but I have a team that can do that. I
Mhm.
don't for my coaching business. I'm like, I don't have time for this. I'm just going to throw it out there. Like, it just has to be what it is, And we actually tried cover art for a little while on my coaching business, and it actually made it worse. Like how you were saying, like, people didn't really click on it because it was too pretty, like it was too
Yep.
perfect.
Yep.
Yeah.
I totally love that you brought up VAs and the team, and I want to kind of go there
Yeah.
because I feel like that, in my experience, has been the number one unlock for me in my
Mhm.
business. We took our business from doing, I don't know, like $30,000 a year,
Yeah.
like pretty much nothing. Within 3 months of kind of revamping some things, we did
Mhm.
$120,000 in sales
Isn't that
just in that
crazy?
3 month period. And then it's been like double and triple years
Yeah.
ever after that.
So
Um,
crazy.
and COVID obviously kind of threw a wrench in that,
Well,
but
yeah.
team, that whole team unlock
Yes.
is that gap, I think. And
100%. Yeah.
so in your experience with the team that you have currently over at Blush, with the
Mhm.
clients that you work with on the coaching side, do you feel like a lot of people, do they come to you with a VA, or do you think like there's this big chasm between folks who have taken the time to hire and put people in their organization and those that don't?
Mhm. Oh, this is a tough question because I feel like I'm going to get in trouble, but because
Let's get in
I
trouble.
think
Let's do it.
I know. Oh my gosh. Oh, my opinions. Okay. So I think that VAs can be challenging for
Mhm,
wedding pros
mhm,
because I think we think we're going to hire this person and they're going to be like a magical unicorn and come in and totally transform our business. And we don't give them the right tools. We don't give them the right direction. We don't tell them what we need. And so it becomes frustrating. You end up firing them or they leave. And then you end up like, oh, VAs don't work. And I think that there's a big challenge with that. So when I'm coaching people, first of all, when I'm coaching somebody that's really going from that, I'm a solopreneur, but I have like a contractor that I work with, I start building out their budget to say, here's how much you're going to pay yourself, and here's how much you're going to hire or pay your first team member, because you have to have that first team member that's on board, whether that's a VA, but they're like in it with you. They're more than just like 5 hours a week answering your inbox. Like that's not helpful. I'm sorry,
mhm.
you guys, but that's not helpful to anyone. Um, if you really want somebody that can come alongside you and really take like whole tasks off your plate, not just it's swatting at flies. So I think it's
Love that
really
you're saying this.
important, yeah, to
Yeah.
consider what you need on your team. That could be social media. It could be, sending out contracts and managing client onboarding or client offboarding, whatever. There's a lot of things that people can do, but I think we go about it the wrong way a lot of times. So I always say strategic delegation, like really think, what do I lack? What am I not great at? What do I hate doing? And then you can really focus on hiring somebody to do those things for you, and the exponential unlock of what you can do, like you said, once you have somebody on your team that can take off some of that junk that you don't want to do or you're not great at, it's exponential because you can now go do what you are great at, and all the leads just start coming from there, the clients start coming from there. So because it is depressing, like if you hate doing your books, and you sit and you stare at it for 8 hours, it's like, oh my gosh, what could I have been doing in the 8 hours? How many clients could I have booked? How many reels could I have done? you know,
The reels,
so
back to the reels.
I
Absolutely.
know, always. But yeah, I think that's just something to really think about is strategic delegation. So really think through, what do I need on my team? Don't just hire a VA.
Mhm.
Don't just hire some random person. Really think through, what qualities do I want them to have, what I want them to do, and then give them the right tools. And one of the things I tell people too is, before you hire somebody, um, Loom yourself. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the tool Loom. It's free, but you can just go to loom.com. It's a video recording software, and
Okay.
it records your face as well as your computer screen at the same time. And
Okay.
so we Loom video literally everything that our company does. So let's say you post a blog, once a month. Turn on Loom, you download it onto your desktop, post the blog, talk while you're doing what you're doing. So you can say, like, go here, enter the password, blah, 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 and then just save that and title it How to Post a Blog. So now when you hire a VA, you can just be like, here's how to post a blog. So it's little things like that that you do every day. Loom yourself doing it, title it.
Ooh,
And then, yeah, when you
I
hire
love
somebody, you can be like, here's our training database of all the Loom videos. And they can keep going back to it over and over. It's so helpful.
That's incredible. There's so much here that I want to get into. I'm not even going to be able to get to all of it. Okay, first I want to ask, what problems? Let me actually go here first. I'm going to ask you a tricky question.
Okay.
Take this
Okay.
however you want to take this. Do you feel like women are worse at delegating than men?
Yes.
Okay, why?
I'm not. I love delegating, but I've been like that since I was young. I don't know. I think that we don't like to ask for help. We think we're super women. We can do it all, and really, in reality, what you end up doing is just running yourself into the ground and being tired and irritated. And when you have kids, or a husband, a wife, it this is not good. Like, you need to be present and available. And I get it. Like, we're wedding people. I mean, there's a stress level there that is
Totally.
hard to deal with. But I think what we don't realize is that we also think that, like, if I don't like doing something, why would I want to ask someone else to do it? But what's interesting to me is, like, for instance, I legitimately loathe data entry, anything that has to do with like, I don't even like filling out forms online. I cannot stand it. And so I like when I'm on my phone and it like fills it out for me. I'm like, yes, yes, yes.
Me too.
Um,
I'm with
but
you there.
right. But there are people who love that. I mean, like it lights them up. They love it. They don't want to have to be creative. They love having a checklist of things to do and just going through it. I think we forget that there's people that aren't built like us who can really enhance how great we are because their skill set is the opposite of ours. And
Mm,
so we forget that and we think, well, I don't want to ask somebody to do this menial task because I don't want to do it. It feels like I'm, looking down on them. And it's like, no, you're giving someone a job that they love to do. And I bet you they do it better than you, faster than you,
mhm.
So I think that's the hardest part. We just like to be super women. We think we can do everything and we can't, nor should you want to.
Well, and I was going to say, low key, you are. I mean, I was raised by a bunch of strong women. I'm surrounded by very strong women. And I think that you, you obviously have superpowers,
Yeah.
but you're maybe a little more powerful in one superpower than another. And so, kind of knowing where to delegate and also just what you enjoy. You're totally
Yeah.
right. When you have kids, when you have a spouse, you have to, it's a dynamic thing.
Yes.
It's not one dimensional. It's
Yeah.
six dimensional, right? Like there's a
Yes.
lot going on. I love that you said that you can't, that the VAs just coming in and doing a random job is not
Yeah.
necessarily helpful. And, I know that maybe flies in the face of some of the,
VAs.
yeah, well, not just VAs, but then also business coaches who are like, just hire a VA and like your life
Right.
will change. How often do you see a business owner hiring a VA? They don't hire them right. They don't delegate right. They don't have the systems in place. They either burn that person out, the person's the wrong person, the
Mhm.
problems happen, right?
Yeah.
And then they come into your organization or your coaching program. You're like, let's do this VA thing. Let's start offloading. And they're like, nah, I've tried that.
Yeah.
How often does that
Literally 90% of the time.
happen? Okay.
Literally. Everyone is like, I've tried having a VA, it doesn't work. And I'm like, okay. And I will say, I'm not pro VA or against VA. I will say more times than not, I encourage people to hire somebody that can grow with their company.
Mhm.
So I'm not a huge fan of like, I'm just going to hire a systems VA because I think when you are young, especially in your business, you don't have the funds to have six different people. Like, you don't have the mental capacity to manage all of those people.
Yeah.
So to me, I think really just hiring somebody that can grow with your company and has just an opposite skill set from you. So for instance, like my senior planner, she's been with me 13 years. She's like the polar opposite of me, which causes some conflict. Don't get
Ooh.
me wrong. Like her and I'll butt heads, but it's also great because everything I hate doing, she loves doing. And she loves to give me a hard time about, I fly by the seat of my pants and she'll be like, Brandee, we have to put this in a process. I'm like, whatever, then put it in a process. Like, I don't know what to tell you. So I think that there's value in, I do most of the time encourage people, let's hire a part-time person that can fill multiple seats that you aren't great at. And then let's grow them with the company. Let's teach them the things that are teachable, but they have to be innately great at the things you're not great at. So, but that does happen a lot where people say, I've done it and I don't want to do it again. And I'm like, oh, we got to get over that bridge.
Let's do it a little differently. Maybe you're a little
Right.
jaded, right?
Yes.
Totally.
Yes.
Totally. Do you think that it's difficult for people to retain people because sometimes do you think business owners it's hard to retain good people sometimes because they don't know how to create
Mhm.
good company culture?
1000%. Yeah. And I think too, in the wedding industry, it's so common to have contractors
Mhm.
instead of employees because we think I can't afford an employee. I don't know. Well, I can't afford. That's always the one, right? I can't afford.
Or employment law, what if I get
Oh,
sued? What if,
yes.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
All the things. And
Taxes.
so, oh,
Yeah.
it's so difficult. And I totally get it. We went with contractors for, I think it was like 8 years before we switched everybody to employees. What happened for us is that We had so many contractors. I think we had 11 planners on our team, but some of them did like 5 weddings a year. And so it became really, really difficult for me, one, to have a team culture or to require them to come to staff meetings because they were contractors. You can't by law require that. It was hard to manage the quality that was going out the door because they might not have worked a wedding for like 6 months. And so then it's like, so for me, it became this issue of we're growing and I need to be able to manage the quality. Like I wanted to be like McDonald's. Like every single time you go there, you get the same Coke every time. And so McDonald's is probably a bad example because you don't get the same quality every time, but you're supposed to. And so I really wanted that for my company. So when we made the switch, we decided to go to way less planners. We only took 4. We only kept 4 of our planners and they all became full-time. And what was interesting about it is when I started running the numbers, and this is really where I was like, this unlock has to happen. I have to be able to teach this for other people, is that we were spending less money actually, because now we were able to provide a full-time salary for 4 staff that was fully responsible to us. But we were like, hey, we're guaranteeing your salary now, instead of being like, I mean, if we have enough weddings, you'll have. So for them, it was a huge benefit too. For us, we actually were able to spend a little bit less than having all these people. So we were able to do bonuses and things like that. But yeah, I think it's difficult to create a team culture when you just have people that are kind of on your team. So
Mhm.
I'm a big proponent. Every single time I coach someone, I say, let's figure out how we can get your first employee, even if that's a part-time employee that's working 20 hours a week. We want to and we want to create a growth plan for them. All of my staff has a growth plan. It's like, here's where I see you in a year, here's where I see you in 3 years, because I want them to know we're not going anywhere and we hope you don't either.
Mhm.
So they have a growth plan with our company. And that's not easy right away. But even if you bring someone in, let's say part time for 20 hours a week, you can say to them, I'd really love to have you full time within a year. What would that look like for you? Is that something you even want? Because you want
Mhm.
to make sure they want it.
Totally.
But then you can be working towards that. Like, how much do I need to make them full time? And then you can kind of work together on it because you're both working towards a common goal.
Mm, that makes so much sense. I've found in my experience that it's the people who usually are committed up front, who are really excited about what you're doing, who say, absolutely, I'd love to do that. I'll take your 20 hours right away. But man,
Yeah.
if you give me 30 or 40, sign me up. Right.
Yeah. And we always tell our part time employees they start at 20 hours, but we do give them an estimated amount of time it's going to take them to be full time.
Mhm.
So I mean, obviously they know that's an estimate, but we're like, hey, your role here is important and we want you to be full time. And here's how long we think that that's going to take to do that. And so it's exciting for all of us because we're like, oh my gosh, we're ahead of pace. Like, are you ready? Are you ready to be
Mhm.
full time? So yeah, telling them right away is helpful.
Totally. Talk to me really quick about the She Who Dares podcast, because I first I love the title, so
Thank
cool.
you.
But how did that come about? What kind of inspired you to go that direction with a podcast?
Yeah. Well, I've said a couple times now, I fly by the seat of my pants. And the She Who Dares podcast was exactly the same. Like, I just am one of those type of people that's like, I have an idea. Let's try it.
Mhm.
And actually, my husband and a good friend of ours were the one that pushed me to do it. I was not excited about it. I'm not going to lie at
Mhm.
first because I was like, what am I even going to talk about? And the beginning of it was messy. We recorded 4 episodes in the beginning. I threw away 3 of them. I refused to release them because they were that bad. They convinced me to keep 1, which is episode 1, and I still hate it to this day, but people love it. And it really was, I didn't know what the purpose was for actually quite a few months. We would just record and I would tell people stories. I think one of my very favorite things is to hear people's stories because you see these companies, they're super successful. I don't know if you've ever listened to the show, How I Built This with
Yeah.
Guy Raz.
Guy
It's a
Raz. Yep.
podcast.
Yep. Love it.
My
Love
favorite by
that.
far. I love it. And because you hear from companies like Crate and Barrel or, gosh, there's so many, Five Guys, and they all came from like some random person having an idea and going through the struggles that we all go through. And so to me, I'm like, gosh, if you could break down the perfection for people so that they can see like you're on the right track. You got this. Like it's normal for you to feel like you want to lose your mind. So for me, that's kind of how the She Who Dares podcast started was I was like, well, I don't really know what I want to talk about. I realized I was a terrible solo host at the time because I was like, I don't even know what to say. So we just had guests on, and we had some of just my favorite companies that I admire in the wedding industry come on. And I would just say, tell me your story. Like, what do you wish yourself when you first started new? How'd you come up with your company name? What were your biggest challenges? All of these things. So it kind of started like that. The first 20 episodes are really just kind of like behind the scenes of successful small business owners. And then I started to find my place. Like I started finding like, okay, I have something to say. I'm going to record a solo episode.
Right.
And then it became a little bit more educational. So it's really a podcast. I mean, it's definitely morphed over the last, we're in episode 70. Um, it's really become just, I always say it's for creative small business owners. There's a bent towards weddings because that's my home. That's where I come from. But I also like to bring on people that are like, talk about personal branding or health and wellness, investing, because there's so much more to us as wedding pros than just weddings.
Mhm.
We want to learn how to be great business people in general, great spouses, great parents. So I tend to have all kinds of small business owners on there. And it really is probably more educational now. Sometimes it's just fun. Like I have fun with it and I do something ridiculous. And my episodes are not scripted at all. So when I sit down to the mic, it's literally like, I have an idea and I just keep talking. And my husband's my editor and he's like, wife.
I
I mean,
love it.
sometimes he'll be like, I cut this whole section because I do not even know what you're talking about. I'm like, I liked that.
I love it. I love it. I'm hearing a common theme that when you don't necessarily like something, it's going to be a huge hit.
Yes.
And then when you maybe like something, maybe not so much. So I
Yeah.
think maybe for everyone listening or watching out there, like if you are about to press that delete button, maybe
Yes.
just don't, maybe just
Hmm.
leave it out there because
Hmm.
the worst case scenario, your come up story looks a lot better. You're like, look where I started. I'm now here. You know, do this kind of thing.
Yes.
Don't be afraid of the intermediate steps that are going to kind of get you to that place.
Yes.
And I think that's what we're talking about, with the How I
Oh,
Built This
hang on,
podcast.
Jonathan. Sorry. I lost
You're good.
sound. I can't hear. Oh, now I can hear you.
No problem.
Sorry. Your editors are going to hate me. Okay.
No, 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 no. They're going to have fun. So this is the other thing. I was trying to give them this like perfectly edited. Hold on a sec. Maybe did I lose you again?
No, I can hear you.
Oh, you're there. Cool.
Okay.
I was trying to give them this perfectly edited one take video that I just miraculously did perfectly. And
Yeah.
my video guy was like, I'm so bored editing this because he wants to edit, he wants to
Right.
cut and slice. And he was just kind of like fooling around, adding different things. And I'm like,
Isn't that
what are
funny?
you doing? And he's like, well, and what he didn't realize was I was taking the video 40, 50, 60 times to try to get it perfect where
No
he's,
way.
yeah. So really, really cool. I think that's definitely a theme of this
Yes.
podcast is like
Yes.
perfection is really, and the kind of the pursuit of it is really hurtful and really painful, I think,
Yeah. It's
and
boring.
sabotages. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Um,
Perfection is boring.
well, we normally have this, a couple game features on this show. And we have this thing called the wedding wheel. We're kind of, I don't know if we're retiring it or not. We're still figuring it
Okay.
out. But we do have a section of the show called OMG. And this is like, oh my gosh, like, and it could be a dramatic event that happened,
Oh
at
gosh.
a wedding. It could be something scandalous that happened with an employee that was like, oh my god, I cannot believe this is happening right now. Like, it could be just like a, my god, I can't believe how unprofessional this was, or whatever. But in your
Okay.
experience,
Hmm.
does something really stand out as like an OMG moment for you?
I feel like I just went through like 30 in my head because I was like, where do I want to go with this?
As wedding pros,
Um,
it's like we have those stories.
so many. I know people are always like, you should write a book. I'm like, meh, I don't know. We all have these stories. There was one really early in my career, I think maybe year 2 or 3. And I had a client who hired this DJ. Oh my gosh, terrible, terrible DJ. They found, I think, on Craigslist or something. Anyway, we had met with the DJ. I was with them, and the bride didn't love her parents. I mean, she did, but she had like this weird relationship with her parents, and they were paying for the wedding. But she said, "How funny would it be if when we were pronounced man and wife, you played Highway to Hell?" Literally as a joke. And we all knew it was a joke. We were all like, "Oh, that funny, ha ha ha." It was a strange comment, but
Yeah.
whatever. So the DJ played it at the wedding, literally. And it's this huge, over the top, opulent wedding, big resort. And I'm standing like across the aisle from him. So I'm, ready for him to play the recessional song. And he plays Highway to Hell, thinking it was funny, that he would be funny for the bride. Oh my word. The backlash from this, I'm like running across the aisle, like, what are you doing? And the bride, one of the cool things about it though, is that the picture
Oh
of them
my
walking back up the aisle is her like holding her bouquet in the air, and she's actually shouting the F word at him. Like, what the F are you doing? But it looks like she's like smiling with this big open mouth and she's holding her bouquet up. So the picture is amazing, but
God.
we all know that she's like cussing out the DJ. And I still to this day, I'm like, no, I must know your
That's
DJ. I
amazing.
must know your DJ. Like, I'm sorry, but DJs have this power, right,
Uh-huh.
over
Oh,
events that
absolutely.
like I can tell them what to do, but they have the mic. So if they don't do what I say, I don't know what to tell you.
It's their world.
It's
Totally. Yep.
their world. I'm just here. So yeah, that still stands out as one of those moments where you're just like, I don't even know how that just happened. Anyway.
Oh my gosh. That may be one of the better ones that I've heard. That is insane. That is hilarious.
I have so many, but that one sticks out.
Well, I love it. Well, Brandee, thank you so much for coming on to the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having
I
me.
there's so many different topics that we could get into, kind of specific stuff for wedding planners and venues, and we could really, really go there. I'd even love to have you back on at some point.
Yeah, I would
Uh,
love it.
but thank you so much for coming on board. If people want to reach you, they're
Mhm.
listening to this, and obviously we're going to put all these links in the description below on YouTube, but then also in the show notes for all the podcast stuff. Where can people reach you, whether it's Blush, whether it's whatever it is? Where
Yeah,
can people
yeah.
get a hold of you?
So I hang out on Instagram the most and Clubhouse. So you can always come find me on
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse.
Yep.
Love Clubhouse. And Instagram, I hang out there the most. I answer all my DMs, and it is me answering my DMs. I love that. And I'm at Brandee Gaar on every platform. So Pinterest, Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Clubhouse. I'm at Brandee Gaar, but I hang out on Instagram the most. And my website is brandeegaar.com. So I keep it pretty easy to remember.
Straightforward. I
And
love it.
yeah, super easy. So come find me. Come say hi.
Good stuff. Absolutely. We will. Well, thank you so much again. Really appreciate you on the show. Thanks to everyone watching. Really appreciate you checking out this content. Go check Brandee out. She's so cool, really fun. She'll teach you how to make a reel. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. Thank you
You're
so
so
much.
sweet. Thank you.